Yo, they call it the remainder, that's the number that remains. So I set up to shoot this video, and then I guess the summer school recess got out, and now there's just a bunch of screaming kids across the street again. And, this is really the only chance I have to do this. So I'm just going to be uploading another video filled with the screams of children. Take that, liberals. Adustus, come for the commentaries. Stay for the tortured children aesthetic. That was for syncing purposes. So this week wound up being really busy for me. If you listen to the podcast, you'll know that I'm directing 2 movies next month now. And so those are both kind of really in full swing at the moment with pre-production. I just finished casting for one of them this week, and then, well, in 2 hours, I have a production meeting for the other one, so that's why I'm doing this now. And then I had this big edit job I need to finish, so basically I decided I needed to do another kind of easy video this week, so I decided I'm going to do another one of the topics I've wanted to talk about for a while. I also got a new bed, so this room's kind of in transition, and that's what I've been spending most of my free time doing, is moving things in the room around to try and maximize it for filming and everything. So right now it's kind of a mess, and I'm trying to show you as little of it as possible. So recently I heard somebody complaining about gay characters in TV shows and movies, and how they're trying to, like, push their sexuality, and how they're like, rubbing it in their face. I'm sure you've all heard somebody say something along those lines before. It's not always with gay characters, but it's usually about gay characters. Hey, here comes the police to try and save the children locked under my apartment, I guess. And now the children stop screaming. They've been trained well. So every time I hear somebody complain about a character just being too gay in a show or whatever, I kind of have to agree in a sense. And here's what I mean. I just feel like what they're experiencing is just bad writing. And it's not that it's bad writing to have gay characters, but there's a really bad habit that some writers have, and that's when they write something that isn't themselves, more or less. They find, like, one trait to focus on, and they just write that. And that has happened a lot with gay characters. There are so many shows where there will be, like, the gay character in the cast. And that is, like, the only bit of character development he has. Whenever that character shows up, it is about him being gay. That is all he is. He is just his sexuality. It's lazy writing, and it also happens with straight characters sometimes, too. When you see a character that is just, like, the bro, everything is about getting pussy and playing sports. And while those things aren't bad, I'm kind of a fan. The fuck was that? Jesus Christ. Yeah? Oh, did they run out of mufflers at the shop? Couldn't find any mufflers, buddy? But in real life, if that's all you can talk about, and that's what your entire identity is built around, I probably don't want to be your friend. And so in media, whenever we see a character who is just one thing, whether it's their sexuality, or their religion, or their race, or their gender, God, you want to talk about gender, look at lazy male writers writing women. Jesus Christ. There are definitely men who can write good women. David Lindsay-Abaire writes almost exclusively female leads, and they are all really well done. But there are a lot of writers, some of them who are very successful, who write terrible female characters. And it's not because they're men, it's because they're lazy. And for a long time, in the 90s and the 2000s, and even still going on today, whenever a gay character was in something, it was because they had to talk about them being gay. And that was basically all the effort that was put into it a lot of the time. And obviously, like, I wasn't in those writers' rooms, and I'm just one guy, so a lot of this is just me trying to, sort it out in my head and figure out why things are the way they are, and then how we can fix them. I think a lot of this lazy writing just came about because of the taboo that was around it. Will and Grace is regarded as this huge landmark when it came to representing LGBT in television, and it very heavily leans into gay stereotypes. But I think the reasoning behind that was because that was how they could get it on air in the first place. Sitcoms are one of the safest places to do one-note characters, because all these characters are just supposed to be caricatures of themselves, basically. They're just supposed to be ridiculous and overreact to things, and have everything go back to normal, and have no growth ever actually happen. So when Will and Grace came around, you're still looking at an audience that went through the AIDS epidemic, and homosexuality still isn't completely understood, and it's It's very much you've got a large audience of people who don't really understand it. And I think that's why Will and Grace was perfect for kind of trying to actually get some representation in there. It gave them a way to represent LGBT issues in a way that was still digestible for a large audience, so a studio was okay with having it there. Now we have movies like Moonlight, which is a much more nuanced, much less stereotypical representation of a gay person and the things affecting them. He wasn't just gay, it was all these other things in his life as well. It was just a very well-written, complex character that was allowed to also be gay. I don't know if that movie could have come out in the 90s and still been successful. It feels a little weird to be talking about this so clinically because while, this whole painful process of trying to get LGBT representation in film didn't have that much of like a personal impact on me, it doesn't affect my life on a day-to-day basis, I have a lot of friends where it does. And every time it feels like we're having a huge blow up over diversity in film or TV, like it feels like we're having one of these arguments every week now. I understand how dehumanizing it must feel to feel like, you're not allowed to be on screen. Not every show or film needs to be diverse, but for there to be an outcry every time any of them kind of tries to diversify, if you're one of those people who feel like you belong to one of the groups affected, that's gotta be just insanely dehumanizing. Which again, I feel like is just a very clinical way of looking at it that makes me kind of feel like an asshole. All that said, I do feel like we're making a lot of progress when it comes to getting LGBT in film and TV. Because the struggle also isn't just, alright, well let's put some gay people in these shows. It's also, okay, let's put some gay characters in these shows and then give them the respect and the writing that we've been giving to characters that aren't gay for years. I feel like we're not really going to truly get good representation until we're able to have a character be gay without that being everything that he is. And this isn't the first time that we've had this struggle with representation. Sidney Poitier is huge and iconic because it was finally like a leading black man leading these films and being treated with respect. And while the films that he was in were phenomenal, he still wasn't allowed to be in these films without it having to be about the fact that he was a black man. And so whenever I look back on Guess Who's Coming to Dinner and To Sir with Love and In the Heat of the Night, there's like those two sides of, oh yeah, it's fantastic that he won an Academy Award and that he was treated like a real actor. But it also kind of sucks that it was almost like he was in a different category from everybody else, and it was like, oh, he's the best black actor. And I can't help but wonder if in the back of his mind there was always that thing of like, I just want to be regarded as an actor. I want to be compared to Humphrey Bogart, for example, without them having to point out that racially we're different. Over time, we've gotten better with that, but we're obviously still not there. We still have so few movies and TV shows where a guy can just be black without him having to, like, be black. It feels like in 90% of any script where somebody's race or gender or sexuality doesn't matter, it's still always just a straight white guy. And I don't think that every movie is inherently racist for this. I feel like a lot of the times it's just, oh, well, these are the bankable stars, so let's put them in. But a lot of those attitudes are rooted in the fact that for a long time, straight white men were the only people who were allowed to be the leads in movies. And so the reason that they're bankable is because that's what we've been doing, and we haven't been taking risks on other things. And now we're taking those risks, and we're seeing movies that break that mold do really well, so I hope that means that we're going to start seeing more diversity. Because one thing that liberals and conservatives have complained about equally, I feel, is seeing the same stupid movies over and over again. And you know what the best way to change that probably is? Pull your material from different sources. Get more backgrounds in there. Get different perspectives. That will do so much to make things more interesting. We don't need to get rid of straight white men in movies to make it happen either. Do you know how much crap we make? Just go through Netflix and just look at so much of the terrible things that are on there and just go like, what if instead of giving this money to a terrible script that had just, some of the bankable stars that we've had forever attached to it, what if we took that money and gave it to an aspiring or really interesting new director or writer or actor and just use that money to produce something that was more interesting? That's just the way I look at it. I don't understand this idea that people of different races and gender and sexuality have to be like in competition with each other to get our stories told. We are producing so much stuff constantly. We can be putting some of those resources into representing newer voices and different perspectives without losing the ones that have been there forever. Obviously, yes, there are people who go too far. There are going to be extremists on any side, and there are definitely times where I've seen somebody like just really go at straight white men in a way where I'm like, that's not really warranted. But I think that the creative table is a lot bigger than people think it is, and there's definitely room for people from all walks of life there. But then sometimes I look at the progress it feels like we haven't made since the days of Sidney Poitier, and, oh god, I really hope that we can start doing better, because it's just going to be better for everybody if we do. And man, you want to talk about how hard it's been to get, like, gay representation in there? We're, like, just actually starting to get some trans representation. And that just feels like it's been an even more painful process in trying to get, like, some fair opportunities there. I just want better things. And I feel like making room at the table is just going to give us better things. I feel like if we can learn anything from our past, it's that diversity makes us stronger. So it just amazes me the pushback that we give towards diversity in artistic mediums where it feels like we would be the most open to it. But those are just my ramblings. I mean, I'm not a genius, otherwise I would be in a better apartment than this. It's something I said in the podcast, but one of the most common comments that I got after Shabbat dinner was, you know, like, how did you handle kissing a guy? Like, what was it like, you know, acting like you were attracted to a guy? And it's just like, it was just like being attracted to a girl. It's really the same feeling, just directed at a different person. I feel like that's the barrier we need to overcome to get over the lazy writing and get better writing, is just realizing that all of these people of different races and sexualities and lifestyles are just people. And sure, while they have their own issues that come with their background, you know, there is baggage that comes with being black, there is baggage that comes with being gay, just like there is some baggage that comes with being white and straight. Not in the same way, obviously, but these individual markers, while they help make our personality, they don't define us, and a trans person will deal with a lot of the same issues that I deal with. And you can write a role and have both me and a trans person play it and have it work for both of us. As long as the role isn't, like, you know, about being trans or something, then obviously it would work way better for them. Do I make sense? Do you understand what I'm getting at? There is so much else that makes us up other than, like, these little demographics and labels. I feel like that's where we need to get to tell these stories well, and personally, as a writer, I want to get to a place where I can write somebody of any background and write them with respect. That said, these are just my rambling thoughts. I would love to have a discussion with you guys about it, so please let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys next week. Also, if you need any proof that the new bed is good, this is my cat, pretty much 24/7 now. She likes it, and it results in pictures that Satchel thinks are squee AF. So clearly that was a wise investment.